I've been working in wellness and well-being for about a decade now. I've been studying it for probably 2 decades. And a lot of what I came to understand when it came time for me to teach or share this work, specifically like meditation, nervous system regulation, I noticed how many people reject it. So part of my process on learning how to be a great teacher of these phenomenal life-changing tools and modalities was to kind of reverse engineer understanding pain and to really approach it not by saying, okay, here's what you need, but kind of approach it by being really curious about why don't you want this, right? Like, why don't you want good things? Why don't you want to meet your needs? Why don't you want to approach looking closer at some of the harder things? And through taking that approach, it taught me so much about the ways that we can hide ourselves from ourselves. And so my biggest intention with this book, and I got to tell you, like, I really did kind of struggle with, there's so much I left out of the book because it started to feel too depressing. And so many miracles too. It's like life is both. It's the duality of both. But I wanted people to understand this work from multiple lenses.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Naked Sports. Cari Champion here. So I am in studio. I never do this. This is really interesting. I normally try to record the podcast during the day, but our guest today, it felt special. It felt like it should have a nighttime vibe in the city because we were in New York City recording, but a few little housekeeping tools. So remember, I told everybody we had the Black Effect Podcast Festival. I really appreciate everybody for coming out and really giving everybody all the support that they needed. It was a really beautiful event. So again, thank you guys for coming out and supporting us. We're in season 4 of Naked. I can't believe it. It flew literally right past us. With that being said, I wanted to give you a little background about our next guest. I often tell people, just like whatever city you're from, you're probably proud you're from that city. I am proud. I like to say I'm from LA, like whatever that means, just whatever that is, it's what it means. And if you know, it's one of those moments. Like if you're from New York, for my Midwest people, if you're from Chicago, Detroit, there's a certain special representation that you feel very, very proud of to say that's your city. And so my next guest is from my city. And the moment that I met her, and I knew of her, but the moment that I met her, I felt like, oh, there was this synergy, this vibe. But she's so low key, she never talks about who she is or what this world has given her. It is really, truly about the experience. And during this time where our country is uncertain and we are not sure what will happen, and I know there's a lot of uncertainty out there and people just don't want to deal with it, don't want to watch the news, I think it's really important to have a calm, centering voice in your life. And she came into my life right on time, literally right on time. I'm talking about Devi Brown. Devi Brown is a wellness expert. She has a podcast on this network. She has worked with Deepak Chopra. She has been featured in every wellness magazine there could be, but she had a whole life before that. And that is where we will begin today's podcast. I'm really curious how your life started off in radio, essentially doing what I'm doing right now in a different way. Wow. How'd you get there? Okay, seriously, we both grew up in LA.
Yes.
What radio stations did you listen to when you grew up?
Oh my God. Growing up, my favorite station was 92.3 The Beat.
Mine too. Go on.
Theo did nights.
Theo with the voice.
Do you remember?
Yes, that deep voice. And then when I found out that he was Filipino, I was like, wait, hold on. You mean to tell me?
Oh no, Theo was that guy. Theo actually gave me my first job on the radio. Many years later, it was very full circle.
Crazy.
But I loved 92.3. I used to listen to Theo, Nautica De La Cruz, PJ Butter.
Okay.
Like it was like LA had such a vibrant radio scene. Like it really did. Like all the artists that would come to town, you'd hear like Biggie doing drops, Pac. I was like, I have to do this.
What happened to radio? It's gone.
It is not gone, but it has changed form, and it doesn't feel as localized anymore.
It
like
does
I felt like there's
not.
that special energy when you're not trying to create something necessarily for everybody. Like when you have a little more culture on it. And I feel like that's what LA was at the time. Because you remember it used to be about like, you know, what was the thing? Oh my God, 92.3, they had this saying. It was like, no. It was
Vaseline. No.
Well, no color lines, color lines, because they were really in the community at a point in the 90s when there was a lot of like gang violence. And so, yeah, it was such a special time. And that's what we grew up listening to. And so
in a way, can I be honest with you? That may have inspired me. To your point, everything felt localized. I didn't think about it as radio. I thought about it as TV, but all of it played its part because we listened to certain people. Did you ever call into the radio?
Oh my God, all the time.
Did you ever get through?
Yes. Oh my God.
And what would you do when you would get through?
I remember there.
You'd be like, yeah, I want the tickets. What?
Yeah, I'd be like, where are the tickets at? And then I remember one time me and my girlfriends, and we were total squares. Like we were just, you know, like hee watching like, you know, like probably TGIF on a Friday night. But we used to call in, and there was this other really great radio personality with an incredible voice. And I remember his name was Adimu.
Yes.
Do you remember Adimu?
Yes,
oh my God. I
yes.
Still to this day have no idea what he looks like, but I remember that voice.
Yeah.
And I remember one time we called up to the station. We were so young, and we were like, hey, Adimu. And, you know, we were like thinking we were flirting with him. We were trying to get tickets on, you know, we're on the party line. And I remember he was like, I think it's time for y'all to go to bed, little girls.
No! Bye, Adimu.
Oh my God, where are you at?
See you soon. Where is Theo?
I know. I have no idea. I
saw him at a club once, and I kept walking around him just to try to get his attention. And he was like, I'm too famous. And by the way, it's a club I wasn't supposed to be in, but that's not the point.
Damn.
Little hoochie.
I want to see a little young hoochie in the club.
Okay, I digress. You grew up listening to that, and then
you know, when I was younger, I was influenced by a lot of specific things. One was like PBS and KCET. So I didn't have cable growing up, so that's all I could really watch. Yeah. And I was always like inspired, honestly, by Mr. Rogers, by LeVar Burton, by the blend of education and exposure for young minds. Like it gripped me, and it really kind of taught me how to learn. And so anytime I've touched anything to this day, no matter what I'm doing, even if it was my former life, like interviewing rappers, whatever, I was always thinking of it through that lens. Like, how do we add like some education, some exposure to whatever it is that we're talking about? So that was a big influence for me. LA radio was a massive influence for me, but then I also wanted to be a child psychologist, and I wanted to be an anchor woman. So it was kind of like all of those things at once were always kind of swirling around me. Sure. And then when I got into college, I had kind of really started emerging in the underground hip hop scene. Like the blogs hadn't come out yet. There wasn't that culture. Like you still had to get a physical mixtape. And I started doing like some internet radio before that was a thing. And then I went and got an internship at the radio station. I got an extra internship at like one of the labels, Universal Interscope. And I was just grinding it out and working my way up. But my very first gig on the radio was Theo had stopped. No, he hadn't stopped being on air, but he had become a program director. And I was kind of wallowing away at the station, filling every position. And he was like, I really like your voice. I want you to do the gossip for my show. And so we had this like late night gossip segment called Dirt with Devi, but it was at a time before there was gossip that was readily available because there weren't blogs there was no Instagram. Yeah. So you would have to find your gossip once a month when a magazine came out. Yeah. And so, yeah, it was a hard thing for me to do. I never had enough tea.
Imagine a world. Imagine a world with not enough tea.
Not enough tea. I couldn't even imagine.
I'm like, was there ever a world? I'm
truly, I know.
It's like crazy. Go on.
I know. And then after that, I kind of worked my way up, and I ended up doing the news and the weather and traffic report for the Steve Harvey Morning Show.
As you're explaining this, I see I see little Devi, and I
Little
see
baby.
I see little Devi building and building and building and building, and then there's just a whole nother world for you after the build, right?
Yeah.
So when did you ever, during, because radio's a different beast now. It's not gone, to your point, but it is definitely a different beast.
Yeah.
But when you were, coming up, who did you see yourself as? Who did you look up to? Because there are people who you probably admired that had been there a little bit before you, or were you truly just the only one?
Yeah, I mean, definitely not the only one, right? Because I think something I've come to know is like just how many women were out there getting it while I was getting it that I necessarily didn't see or know about.
Okay.
But I do feel like at that time, I didn't really have anyone I was modeling myself after. There weren't a ton of women on the radio. And then the few times you'd hear women, it would usually be in like morning show kind of companion mode, right? So it would be a lot more focused on laughing, on, giving the gossip, on, just kind of like really holding up the male personality. And so I didn't even think I wanted to be on air, to be honest. Like I wanted to just help make things happen. And I had really I had been coming up in the underground hip hop world of LA. So it was really for me at that time about getting like certain artists to be able to get opportunity, to get some recognition. And then I got like my first 4 a.m. shift and I was like, what do I say? What do I do? I don't have anything to say.
I appreciate you humbly being like, just kind of getting some LA artists up and going and kind of just helping them, because you don't even know where I'm going right this. There's just so much humility in what you've been able to do in this scene, and people are, and you say it so casually, and I know the kids say humble brag, but you really do have that. Like, yeah, no, I grew up with, I knew Kendrick, and then there was like, there are people who really are changing the game that you were friends with and help them and introduce them, and you've watched them grow. How does that make you feel now looking back on it?
So inspired.
Did you even know that you were in that type of company?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Oh my God, absolutely. Yeah. And
you knew Kendrick was Kendrick when you met him?
100%.
You knew Nipsey was it when you met him?
100,000%. Yeah, both of them. I was really blessed to start in radio at the same time that just some phenomenal talent was coming out of LA. And two of the biggest, youngest people at that time coming out when I'm like climbing were, Kendrick Lamar and Nipsey Hussle. And yeah, I mean, but honestly, if you really got to look at them when they started, it was hard not to know. There is anointing is something different, right? Like it gives a different glow. It's not just talent. It's not just music. And I remember, watching early Kendrick in like one of the first times he ever did like a pop-up. And this is before the rest of the country knew him. This was like on the Kendrick Lamar EP, which was early. And I remember going to this like little signing he did at a record store, and like women and children were crying, but like the rest of the country hadn't heard of him yet. And
like
so
Michael Jackson crying?
Like deeply emotionally moved
wow.
by his work and his presence. And
wow.
he like was barely getting started. And so I think when it comes to someone like him, it's just, you don't need to be discovered. It's divine plan that your work touches the world, So I think when I look at the fact that I was able to kind of glimpse and see, minds like that, hearts like that, talent like that, so early, young in their career, like it's just a privilege.
I wonder, for you to say you knew right away. Now we think about Nipsey, may he rest in peace, and you think about Kendrick, how beautifully talented they are. And I'll use current as in, yes, they are. It is what it is. But do you ever think about just being a part of LA culture? For me, and someone kind of tried to, push back on this at one point. And I was like, no, I think, the LA, the West Coast rap, definitely we have our Mount Rushmore of that started it. But then you have a whole new world with Nipsey and Kendrick.
Yeah.
And they picked up this mantle that was already considered to me golden in so many ways. And they took it to a much more higher level of consciousness.
Yeah.
That was just so, to me, surreal, to your point, anointed. And you you can't quite describe what they were sent here to do for whatever period of time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. LA is something special, you know, and I say that as us LA natives, so I'm not trying to take away from anyone else's scene. Every area has, you know, the things that they do, you know, really incredibly, but to come from LA is just really something else. Like the kind of creativity, the kind of adversity, the kind of opportunity that exists in LA, it just creates this like bubble of synchronicity and genius. And I think at that time, right, like we're thinking and kind of, so our brother Charlemagne, so I'm so grateful for this. I'm so grateful. He did the forward to my book.
I know.
One of the things that he shares in the book is like his first time touching down in LA and like me taking him to meet like Nip and Kendrick. And I remember I had told him, I was like, wait right here. I have to get you music. And I thought I'd be able to like get home and back quickly. It ended up taking me like an hour and a half in LA traffic, but I brought back like literally like 5 pounds worth of mixtape of every LA artist that was like making noise at the time. And I was like, listen to all of these when you get back to New York, you know? And I think it's like the talent was just surreal. And I hope someone makes a documentary about it one day, like this moment between like 2005 and 2010 before music completely changed. But there, you know, and there's a lot of names that maybe people around the world won't hear of, but they were phenomenal talents. LA had something so special. There was a scene for everything. There was like the new version of gangster rap. There was more melodic rap. There was, you know, more, you know, what you'd call then like backpacker rap, conscious rap. Like there was such a lane for so many different landscapes of Los Angeles.
I feel sorry for people, and I know we're having our LA moment, but I even think about just like, remember back in the day, and not that we could really enjoy it. I enjoyed it a little, but like Crenshaw and Sundays and the car clubs.
Yes.
You know?
Oh my God.
Like you're just like, there's no way to describe it. Boys in the Hood did a great job, right? But at the end of the day, there's no way to describe something that is so special. And listening to you talk about the city, I wonder, did you ever see a life, especially during that time when you're literally taking Charlemagne so he can hear new music from Nipsey and Kendrick? Did you ever see a life where you would leave radio at that time?
I'll tell you this, I don't wrap my identity around anything. So like I did radio and I loved radio and eventually did it in a couple other states, but I wasn't like, I am radio, I'm radio forever. You know, it's like, this is the way my purpose is expressing itself right now. Okay. But I've always had a lot of interests. And I think for me, it's always about what makes me feel like I'm being useful to the world. Like what makes me feel like I'm using the best parts of me, my brain, my heart, whatever skills I've amassed, right? And so for me, and we're both Geminis, I can be a very restless person and I can be a very non-committal person.
I feel attacked. I feel attacked.
But we're also like loyal to the soil. Like
we are. Oh, there she.
We're so loyal. And
we are.
But you know, there is this piece of us that just always wants to learn, like always wants to have a little bit more of something or more understanding. And I think, you know, when it came to radio, I loved it. I felt like I was good at it, but I also felt really limited by it from the start because I have so many interests, and working specifically in hip hop radio, I can't bring those interests to work. I got to talk about one thing all the time. So yeah, I feel like I was always ready to do whatever.
You have been. You were on your path, your spiritual path, when you were drawn to, when Nipsey and Kendrick were drawn to you. You've always been. You know what I mean? Like that wasn't an accident that you all had met during that time, and our brother Charlemagne. None of that's an accident. You were always on the path. You can just look back and see, you're like, oh, okay, I'm where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
At least it feels that way.
Yeah.
From me knowing you, it feels that way from this story as you share it. I am restless. I will share this with you with Devi. Anyone who knows Devi, if you're listening and or watching, she won't be your friend if she don't get your birth chart. If you don't get your birth chart, my girl needs your birth chart before she sit down and have water, tea, a sniff, a cry, a drop.
Definitely before I go on a date. I gotta see that chart.
What time were you born? And what hospital?
I know. And I'm not even like shy about it anymore. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
What time?
I'm trying not to laugh so hard.
It's so true.
Could you ask your mom?
No,
Your
literally, I'll be like,
is she around?
if you're like, I don't know, I'll be like, who can you ask? Can you send a text right now? I gotta know.
This is such a private joke. I'm sorry.
I know. I definitely I remember when we first met on the beach.
We met on the beach in Florida. She's like, "Now, what time were you born?" Okay,
Literally.
Gemini. In like 5 seconds, she just told me. I was like, "Correct." Well, and we became friends.
I love astrology.
Have you ever someone giving you their birth chart and you're like, "Oh, I can't talk to you anymore. Sorry."
Absolutely. That's why I ask. Oh, for sure.
In real time?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh my God, absolutely.
Okay.
I think, listen,
Oh my gosh.
for any other astrology lovers out there, or if you're not, but you're curious right now, I highly recommend the Pattern app, Time Passages, CoStar. Those are great apps to learn about your astrology. But yeah, I don't have a lot of time. Mm-hmm. So fundamental compatibility with friends, with love, with work, with anything, anybody that works for me got to come up off that birth chart too. I need to know what those deeper layers of things are.
I just got real uncomfortable. I got angst. Just came over my body. I'm all like, shoot, I'm trying to get a job. And you're like, what time were you born? You're like, 8:05 on a Wednesday, if that's cool. No,
I know, but it can.
It can
tell you so much.
And as we talk about this transition, as I was asking, how did you know? And I felt like just listening to you tell the story, even of those two particular artists, your journey, Charlemagne, you've always been on the path. It may have been, the platform may have been radio at one point. But now you have really been able to, and I don't want to even say pivot, but you've been able to show your other curious everything else that you are, other things that you want to learn about. In Living in Wisdom, you give us a lot of, out today, April 22nd, buy it ASAP, help my girl, time out, everywhere, Audible, listen to it, download, go and do it. That was a rap. Could I be a rapper? No, no. Buy the book is the point. But in Living in Wisdom, I just think, gosh, how did she do this all so well? But you share very specific moments that were crushing, soul crushing, painful, physically, mentally.
Yeah.
And each one of these could be considered pain and or grief. You were able to turn into magic, the beautiful alchemy of something that seems painful, turning into magic, being a blessing, being better. Yeah. Why did you decide to share your story in this particular book?
So I've been working in wellness and well-being for about a decade now. I've been studying it for probably 2 decades. And a lot of what I came to understand when it came time for me to teach or share this work, specifically like meditation, nervous system regulation, I noticed how many people reject it. So part of my process on learning how to be a great teacher of these phenomenal life-changing tools and modalities was to kind of reverse engineer understanding pain and to really approach it not by saying, okay, here's what you need, but kind of approach it by being really curious about why don't you want this, right? Like, why don't you want good things? Why don't you want to meet your needs? Why don't you want to approach looking closer at some of the harder things? And through taking that approach, it taught me so much about the ways that we can hide ourselves from ourselves. And so my biggest intention with this book, and I got to tell you, I really did kind of struggle with, there's so much I left out of the book because it started to feel too depressing. And so many miracles too. It's like life is both. It's the duality of both. But I wanted people to understand this work from multiple lenses, multiple facets, right? And so I felt that it was really important that people hear stories from a place of wisdom, not from a place of centering self or a place of embitterment or a place of, this is what I went through. Yeah. That's not how I present it. Nope. I share some of the griefs I felt in a way to explain the processes of grief and also the miraculous nature that is always available to you when you choose to spend time with your grief. Something I was saying to someone recently, and I'm like, I know this sounds so odd, but I get so excited to teach grief. I get so excited to teach and understand pain. Because it's not something everyone can do. It's hard to be with those things, but it's something everyone feels. And I think that I'm really passionate about what it is to be alive on earth and a human being. And I think that, the way emotion is designed, the way that God designed our human experience, no emotion is more holy, is more important, is more necessary than any other emotion. We're meant to kind of be with whatever is true and whatever is present. So that means grief, that means joy, that means happiness, that means sadness, that means jealousy, that means anger, that means anxiousness, that means all of the full spectrum of what it is to emote as a human being. And I think it fascinates me. And so I think when it came to like sharing some of my stories, all of life hasn't been pretty for me, but it hasn't been pretty for everybody. A lot of people go through really hard things and not just one thing, right? Like we're used to hearing and learning about trauma through the lens of like, one thing happened to you or you had an accident or you had this, this big harm happen and that was it. So that's all you got to work through. How realistic is that for most of us? Most of us have had 10s and 20s and hundreds of things, big and small, happen compounded continuously. And so those are usually the reasons why it's harder for me, for you, for us, for they, for everyone to find this elusive peace that wellness always touts, right? And so when I teach, I'm like, it's not that you're in search of peace in this pristine way of like, that'll come, that can come. It takes a lot of time and a lot of work. But this work is about how do you alleviate some of your daily suffering? How do you alleviate some of the internal struggle only you know about so that your life actually feels good inside in the same way you want people to believe it is on the outside?
It reads, first of all, that was so beautiful. And I just went through a bevy of emotions. I emoted the entire time because I want you to know the feeling of, especially right now, where we are in today's age. And I can say over the last 4 or 5 years, maybe just the uncertainty, the anxiety that comes with living in America. There are all of these issues that pop up. And as soon as I feel something, I want to medicate. I want it to go away. I don't want to sit with the pain. I had this one therapist tell me, you got to sit with that. Because pretty soon it doesn't take forever. As you talk about in the book, it doesn't take forever. You said one part, it could start to be 6 weeks, 6 months, 30 days, 3 seconds, 3 minutes. You gave some kind of amount of time, but it goes and it comes and you get better at it. But I'm really, really curious about a section that you wrote in the book. Mastery. You talk about mastering who you are. Like to me, that is the hardest thing. How did you feel okay with letting everything break and then just leaving it there? Is that mastery? Like
God, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So when something in us kind of falls apart and we're hurriedly looking to place the pieces back together or glue them back together, right? It's really to replicate some semblance of control. Oh. It's really to think, no, I'm fine. See, everything is back together in its place. I'm okay. Right. And that is actually not the intended path. Like there's no learning there. There's no growth there. There's no freedom there. So what I found for myself and what I hope other people will find is like sometimes you are really brought to your knees by life. There is no making sense of it. There is no way to rationalize it. There is no way to, talk yourself out of the pain, the humiliation, the disappointment, the hurt. And so something I realized in one of my darkest moments is like, I spent my whole life trying to glue myself back together after every hit. what if I didn't do that? What would happen?
What does that look like?
What that felt like to me was just shattering and letting the pieces fall, and now experiencing what is it to be uncontained, right? What if I'm not packed into this tight little neat vessel? What happens if I just kind of fill the space?
That feels scary.
Yeah, and it is at first. Like, it does feel scary.
That sounds scary.
It's scary because it's unknown, but it's not scary because anything is wrong. And I think that's what's really important as we do whatever kind of healing work we're called to do on ourselves, whatever self-actualization. It's like, you have to learn through pain until you realize you don't. You know, like there is this way you can begin to be in a relationship with yourself where I believe you can really work with God, work with the energy of the universe, of humanity, to say like, you know, I can get that lesson through observation. Show me, you know, I can get that observation through like, you know, a twinkling moment. Yeah. I can get it through a breakthrough thought. I don't always have to wait to get the punch in the face, to get the shatter, to get the devastating blow. And I think it's important to know that we do hold that power, but if we don't feel our emotions, if we don't process ourselves, we don't get that option. The only way to get that option is to choose to feel. And much like your therapist said, which is just such a powerful truth, it's like, it doesn't take as long as you think, right? We run from that thing that we don't want to think about. Everybody has that thing. Some people have a lot of that. Those ruminating thoughts, those things that no matter where you are, you could be at your kid's game, at your office, at a concert, you could be alone in your own bed.
Why am I thinking about that?
It's flashing up. Yeah. And there's no stone left unturned. There's no reason to keep cycling it forward, right? But that happens because it wants to be brought to your review so it can be accepted and released. And I think we feel like to accept some of the harder stories means weakness. You living is proof of strength. You living is proof of your adaptability and your ability to be resilient and to create. The acceptance is just admitting that it happened because it's true. Not that you liked it, not that it broke you, not that it was okay, not that that person should be forgiven. None of it. It's just saying that it actually did happen. When you see that, when you look at that, you then give yourself the opportunity to change the way that charge feels in your body when the memory comes back up. And so you'll find that instead of spending years trying to run from thinking about it, but it's still like eating a hole in your brain and your heart every day, in the gut of your stomach every day, instead of it being like that, you look at it, you probably have a few really good cries, right? But what is wrong with crying? It's a biological response.
Feels good.
It feels good. It's a release. It's your body being able to have a response and release something that is storing and feeling inside. You'll have a few good cries, and then you'll notice, I don't need to cry as hard anymore. Then you'll notice, I'm not actually crying. I'm curious about this pain now. Then you'll notice, how is this actually useful to me? And how can I develop even more esteem and self-respect for myself because I know what it takes to be me? And then that's where power comes, and that's where purpose gets to emerge. But it's all a process. Just like, you know, for those that have babies, when you have a baby, the doctor is always like, hit these developmental milestones. You know, they got to do this before they flip over. Then they got to flip over before they can crawl. Then they got to crawl before they can walk, right? Everything feeds upon itself. It's evolutionary, but all those steps have to happen at a certain point for the next step to take place. That is the same way with our emotional, with our mental, with our spiritual, with our physical healing, with all healing. You have to get your reps in, you have to get your practice in, you have to bear witness to it, and you have to go step by step developmentally. And every step of acceptance of process takes you to the next, till eventually it really is this wisdom that resides in you and not this like crushing weight that holds you back.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is living in wisdom in a nutshell. That is a TED Talk straight from Devi Brown. I mean, give me my TED Talk, friend. We're not even wrapping the podcast. Friend. I was like, that's living in, okay, one more, and then another step, and another step. Easier said than done.
Yeah.
Because you and I have talked about this. I would like, and this is, and honestly, I feel like your book really it's going to save souls. You know that, because when you share your story and you are candid and you show that you can break and you can be built back again and even better, if you will, people are going to be like, oh, okay, this exists. Her life isn't as perfect as I think it is. Or
God, no.
How uncomfortable I am. You mentioned we're Geminis. We could Gemini all day, all through this entire podcast, but we don't like to share our business.
Oh, girl. Don't I know?
Did she just roll her eyes?
Girl,
talk to me.
I ask myself every day, why did you write this down?
How did you do it? How did you do it?
Why not? I'm not ashamed of anything in my life. I'm not ashamed.
When you arrived there, not necessarily the ashamed aspect, but why not? Why not tell everything? It doesn't help. All it can do is help, not harm. When did you arrive at that point?
I think that may be something that is always up for review, right? Depending on what it is that we're working with. But what I will say is that every story I shared in this book is something that I've made peace with. And so it's not anything in that book does not actively trigger me. It's something that is many years behind me. And it's also something that, even if I didn't share the full circleness of it in the book, has come back to me full circle. There has been some kind of restoration. There has been some kind of healing. There has been a wisdom. Like, none of it is like outstanding, right? There's no warrants out for this. Like, I'm just like,
I love it.
I'm in acceptance that these experiences were my life. They were. And I have a life I love. And I think that is where ideally you arrive on your journey. It's not that these things didn't happen to you. It's not that, you get to go back in time and change it and now be happy. It's that, like, they happened. I have found a way to have a reverence for those things and to make them useful to my life and to use them to serve others. And I have a beautiful life. I have a life filled with special people I love, yourself included.
Thank you.
I have an incredible child that it's like an honor, like an absolute honor to be his mother. And just, in so many ways, I have a life that is filled with adventure, with joy, with happiness, with challenges, but with a lot of specialness. And so why not? Why not?
Why not? I have reasons. I'm not arrived. Can you still be my friend? I'm not. I'm just not.
Girl, hush.
I don't have it yet. I'm almost there. I just don't have it. I'm just talking to the fam over here.
That's absolutely not true in any way.
Almost, not quite. I look at you and all I'm thinking is what many people think. Gosh, she's so beautiful. Gosh, she's so smart. Gosh, she's so kind.
So generous.
Should I curse in front of her? Can I curse in front of her?
And you know me for real.
Yes, I know I can curse. But this is what people feel when they first meet you. I think they feel like they have to be on their absolute best behavior.
Get me off the pedestal. I don't get it.
Yeah, and that is who you are. True Gemini. Don't put me on a pedestal. I'm just out here doing the work.
I am flawed.
Never. I don't know anything. I know nothing. I know nothing about you being flawed.
Simple, complex, flawed creature. But
no, what you are is a beautiful goddess sent here for so many people. I try to take our friendship and use it as a guide of just what pure love is. I always am I'm really conscious of this, and I tell her this. I don't want to give you all my problems and then make you feel like you got to solve them. But that's what happens in girlfriends. Like, girlfriends talk. I'm like, let me tell you what he did. And I just don't want to be with him now. That is a constant conversation that we are having.
Oh, Lordy.
Do we not do that? Because you're playing with your hair. Do we not talk about no personal relationships?
Are we talking about dating?
Yeah.
Let's go. You first.
Okay. Family. Have you been dealing with this all day?
Tell me, are you dating?
I am dating.
Oh.
I am dating. Every other day I'm breaking up with my date, though. True story. But you said something earlier, and I think it's really interesting, and trust me, I'm going to turn this back on you. When we feel something good, you already know. When we feel something good, why are we fighting it? So when I first started dating this guy, I felt like a little girl. Like I was in my innermost cuddly state, and it felt so awkward and unfamiliar, and I was fighting it because I didn't want to be sweet and soft. Because the world has made me so tough. And then so I lean into the sweet and soft of it, and I'm like, this this feels fine. Okay, I can do this. Yeah, let me relax.
Yes.
Well, why was I fighting it? Why do we do that as humans? You explain in the book, but I want to know, why can't we just rest in whatever the feeling is?
It's so natural, and we can once we choose to.
Why do we have to just say, this feels foreign, let me relax into it instead of fighting it?
Well, why does it have to happen immediately? That's part of the process.
Okay, then give me the wisdom. That's why you're here. I'm asking a question.
That is part of what building love is, right? It's like moving through your discomfort, through your hangups, through your fears, through your old programs, through also your old projections of other people. I think joy, intimacy takes practice, and I think that's the thing, that it should be really fair and open and easy to talk about. Everything takes practice. And earlier you said something, you were like, easier said than done. And I have like a gripe with that particular statement.
Well, come at me.
Because it's like, no one is saying it's easy though. Like I'm saying it with my words, but I'm letting you know it's hard. It's not easy, that it's going to take practice. And that's the thing. Everyone wants it to happen immediately. And I think even when we meet people, it's this idea that like it all has to be perfect now.
Right.
But like we have to establish like powerful, intimate communication. We have to be willing to be a little naked in front of each other, to be a little revealed in front of each other. And if you do that right away, it absolutely doesn't have the same effect. You haven't had the chance for other parts of you to catch up, to even understand what that feeling or that experience is. So it's like, let it happen slowly, let it unfold. And then when you make yourself cringe, just have grace for yourself and laugh at yourself and be like, look at me being so cringe.
So ridiculous. Big ass age, small ass kid. Like it's all the same. Okay, so go on.
No, I love that you were talking about like that nervousness of being able to feel soft, because I feel like that's what so many women are coming into right now. It's like when we talk about soft girl era, when we talk about, and I think this is for men too, because like, God, men really deserve to be soft.
They do.
Like men truly deserve to be able to take a load off, to be able to not have it all together, to reveal themselves emotionally, to be held in safe space without judgment, with the truth of who they are. And, men go through a lot of things too, like all of us do, but they don't have as many avenues to emote about it or to share about it, And so I think that's really important to keep in mind. But the softness, it's so funny because I feel like whenever I date, that is what I'm like, why can't you let me be a lover girl? Like, why can't I just be soft?
That's all I want to be. I just want to come in here and
I get this projection.
Canoodle. Yeah. I just want to be like, I should be eat. I can order something. Like, oh, wait. Yeah. I can't cook. I just want to be sweet. Go on.
Let's just be like, let me be a sweet girl.
Let me be a sweet girl.
I get this projection, either that I'm like too wise or have it all together, which I'm not, and I don't. Get me off a pedestal. But then there's also, I get this projection of like being aggressive alpha. And I'm like, sure, I can show up powerfully in rooms easily. I have a business. I can show up in spaces and, command my worth. But with my man, No, I want to be soft. I want to be led. I want to be,
Grab me by the hand. Where are we going? I'll wait for you to open the car door. I'll just wait here, honey.
Yes.
I'm very delicate and dainty.
I am so dainty.
I am so dainty. Shit.
This is us every day on the phone.
This bitch is dainty.
She is.
And dandy.
She is so fragile.
Yeah. And so, with that being said, how's dating for you?
It's fascinating. Dating is so fascinating. I think like, what?
I'm just making sure. Okay, I'm looking to make sure. I'm looking over to the family. Am I going to get in trouble for asking that?
I think dating is fascinating. And I think that as someone who was married and got divorced and kind of came back into the dating world after being gone for a really long time, I personally think dating has gotten better than it used to be when I was single before I got married in my 20s.
Yeah.
I feel like men are so much more communicative now. I feel like there is like, you're looking at me like, what? Really? No, they're not. I saw that little glimmer in your eye. Do you have this thing in your eye when I know it's like clicking and you're like, no?
No, like I'm recalling stories. I'm like, okay, that tracks. That's what I was doing.
I think a lot of men are more communicative, which is really nice. I think, the thing about dating is we're all looking for such different things. And I have a very particular recipe of what I am looking for in another person.
Sure.
And I have to have the patience for what that recipe requires. And I have to be honest with the fact that that is, something that takes some deep presence.
Yeah, dating is hard. I just think it's it doesn't have to be, but I think it's, as I've mentioned to you before and I've seen around, it's the only thing you can give 10,000 hours to and still be like, well, how do you do this whole, because you're supposed to be an expert after 10,000 hours with dating. You don't know how.
That is so funny.
Because you're just like, wait, okay. And it's the awkwardness, but it also goes back to what you've been saying in your book and what you've been saying. Let ourselves just feel.
Yeah.
If we just allow ourselves to feel, none of this would be as difficult as it appears to be. If we just allowed ourselves to just feel, which is why I think your book is a beautiful revelation and such a great gift. Go out and get it today, wherever you get your books.
Thank you.
We are doing a book signing in Atlanta. So by the time this podcast airs, we have already did the book signing and people were banging down the doors. Prince Charming was outside waiting for you. He had a carriage. He came on a white horse. He was like, can I take you and whisk you off into the sunset? All these things have happened. I'm just manifesting.
I don't know if I want that.
You don't. What would you like?
I just want someone stable and sturdy and solid. But you know what I wanted to say though? Like, last thought about dating would be
no.
You know what? So this is the thing. I think.
Woo! Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
First, I'm going to tell you, when I think of like what I think is really amazing in another person, what I would look for in another person, what I find is attractive.
Okay.
It's like, this is going to sound ridiculous to some people, but I think it's the highest ideal. I don't want the things everybody else wants, but I want some really big specific things.
You don't want stable, sturdy, strong?
I want stable, sturdy, strong, but I want like emotional depth. I want great communication. I want integrity. Integrity is the leader there for me. Integrity, honor, dignity. I feel like if someone is built with that, everything else is workable. Everything else is figure outable. Everything else would just be a plus.
Yeah, because you can figure it out. If they have integrity, if they can communicate, they have emotional depth, it's all there. All the tools are there. Now, let's talk about the physical. Is there any particular preference? Because
I'm not doing this.
You just said stable, sturdy, and strong. I am following up as Oprah would. You said
this
stable,
is
sturdy,
wildly personal. Jesus. I have a lot of different types. It's really just like, man, give me some great intellect. Like, oh my God, be smart. Have integrity.
There's no physical thing that you require.
Depth.
You don't require a certain height. You don't require because I
wouldn't say so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think I've dated.
I believe you.
I've dated people that I'm 5'8". I've dated someone that is like my height, maybe a little under. Dated much taller.
And if they had those qualities you just described in abundance, they would be attractive anyway.
100%.
100%. I agree with you. They would want that. Your king,
nothing more attractive.
Your emotional stable king is around the corner. He's waiting. I feel it. Your responsible king is about to pull up.
I'm not waiting. I'm not hoping. I'm living a beautiful, full life, and I'm taking life.
Can I just have somebody walk this journey with you? Don't you hate your friends who always want to get you married and take into
like that, actually.
Don't you hate that when
I
you do
absolutely
that?
hate it.
And me too.
Because I think the thing that I discovered after I got divorced, I didn't realize women talked about men so much. And it was kind of like shocking for me and a little frustrating for me because anytime I'd get together with a girlfriend, everybody wants to talk about men. And I'm like, I have so many things to talk about. I have so many other things. And it's always about waiting or wanting or something coming. And I'm like, my life is great.
You're busy.
I feel
busy.
I feel amazing. And I have a lot of fun and I date and I have a full, great, adventurous, beautiful life. And I think, why can't that be more than enough? And if something takes me by surprise, it will, but it's not something I have to like give a lot of thought to. Yeah. I'm like, surprise me, life. Surprise me, God.
You're onto something though. And I don't necessarily think women are having the same epiphany you are. Maybe it might be in a different way, but more and more you're hearing women being like, no, I'm okay. I'm chill. Let me just spend some time with my girls. For a date, great, but I'm not forcing it. I'm thinking of what will happen with Generation Alpha, what I see happening now with Generation Z. Like you talk to these people and they're these kids and they're like, no, I'm cool. It's expensive. I'm all set. I'm about to travel. I'm going to take some photos. I'm going to like,
and two, not all dating has to evolve into something to be valuable, right? Correct. Like I feel like I've dated a bunch and I've dated some really special people that have like a lot to offer. We just weren't compatible in really specific ways, but it's like no one was wrong. No one did anything wrong and there's nothing wrong with them, nothing wrong with me. It's just like, wow, I really like, that was special. Like I really enjoyed this time. And I also understand that this may not be the path forward for both of us for whatever reasons. And it's like, that is okay, you know?
Oh, and I don't want to say this. I don't, because I hate when people say it to me, but you are a force and it is so hard for them to understand all that you are and how humble that you are. So I could imagine dating Devi might be difficult for some or intimidating to others, and you weed them out. It's fine.
Yeah.
I'm speaking to my, I know.
Everyone operates in their emotional capabilities, right? Yeah. Like everyone operates from the best of what they are in each moment. And I think I'm just always looking to operate that way too. So yeah.
I love you.
Yeah. And I mean, same to you.
Yeah, I said I can relate.
I mean, damn.
I can relate. It's just such a heavy load. It's a burden, but I can deal with it.
Hush up.
How much do I love you? This was such a beautiful time.
Oh, thank you so much.
Did you not enjoy it?
I had the best time.
We got family in the corner. You guys will wonder why I'm looking out to the side.
We were also supposed to like turn up after this, but then you gave me crushing news.
I know. I got a 6 a.m. flight, but we can still. We got 45 minutes in us. I mean, a solid 45. Devi Brown, the book is out today, right now. Go get it wherever you get your books. I'll say that. If you have listened to this podcast and you understand how amazing my friend is, she truly is living in wisdom. And she just breaks it down so simply, so eloquently. And there's no pressure to it. Even from the theory of who God is in your life, there's no pressure. Just sit with all of it. And so I appreciate you. I'm learning so much. I really am.
I love you, friend.
Thank you for having me. Anytime. We're gonna do a double podcast called Date.
She a whole icon.
And stuff.
Thank you.